Hey guys, welcome back to the Unfiltered Political podcast. Today I want to go over the full Iran conflict. We're going to start from the very beginning when the war started, what initially kicked off, and the ensuing events that occurred afterwards, and break it down step by step from its inception to the present day and where we're headed with Iran refusing to back down and the U.S. and Israel determined to keep them from obtaining nuclear weapons. In this deep dive analysis, we break down the full timeline of the Iran War from its origins to present day, including the military strategies, geopolitical motives, and ultimate objectives of all ideas involved. This is a complete, unfiltered look at how the United States and Israel and Iran reached the point of direct conflict and what it means for the future of the Middle East and the world. If you want a clear strategic understanding beyond headlines, this is a full picture. The modern war involving Iran, the United States, and Israel is not a sudden event, but the culmination of decades of ideological conflict that began after the Iranian Revolution in 1979. When Iran transformed from a Western aligned monarchy into an Islamic republic, openly hostile to both Washington and Tel Aviv, this shift redefined the geopolitical architecture of the Middle East, turning former allies into adversaries and embedding a long term narrative of resistance against Western influence. From the moment forward, every crisis, from the proxy conflicts to nuclear disputes, became part of a broader existential struggle rather than isolated incidents. At the center of this conflict lies Iran. Pursuit of nuclear capability crystallized in the 2015 nuclear agreement that temporarily restrained enrichment activities in exchange for sanctions relief, but ultimately it collapsed after the United States withdrew in 2018. The breakdown of this agreement reignited fears in both the United States and Israel that Iran could rapidly approach nuclear weaponization, fundamentally altering the balance of power in the region. For policymakers in Washington and Jerusalem, this was not merely a technical violation, but a strategic red line that justified preemptive considerations. The transition from shadow war to direct confrontation accelerated after 2003 Gaza conflict, which significantly weakened Iran's network of regional allies and exposed vulnerabilities in its defense structure. Israel interpreted this moment as a rare strategic window in which Iran's deterrence posture was compromised, making a direct strike more feasible than at any other time in recent decades. Consequently, the stage was set for the shift from covert sabotage and the proxy engagements to overt military operations. This culminated in the June 2025 Israel air campaign, which was a high intensity operation that demonstrated the overwhelming technological superiority through the precision strikes on nuclear facilities, missile systems, and senior Iranian leadership. Hundreds of aircraft were executed coordinated attacks that not only degraded Iran's capabilities, but it also sent a clear signal to Israel was willing to escalate beyond the traditional rules of engagement. Iran's retaliatory missile barrages were symbolically powerful, and it revealed limitations in the penetrating Israel's layered missile defense systems. The uneasy ceasefire that followed did not resolve underlying tensions, but instead functioned as a strategic pause during which all sides reassessed their capabilities and prepared for a larger confrontation. By early 2026, the United States and Israel launched a joint offensive widely understood as an attempt to decisively dismantle Iran's nuclear infrastructure and pressure internal political change. This marked a shift from the containment to active rollbacks, fundamentally raising the stakes of the conflict. The American military strategy in this phase has centered on achieving air dominance and conducting a decapitation campaign aimed at crippling Iran's command and control networks. Utilizing carrier strike groups, stealth aircraft, and long range cruise missiles, the United States has targeted thousands of sites in an effort to systemically dismantle Iran's military ecosystem. However, the loss of advanced aircraft has challenged assumptions of uncontested superiority and underscored the risk of operating in a contained air defense environment. Israel's role complements this approach through its emphasis on intelligence driven warfare and rapid precision strikes designed to neutralize high value targets. Its doctrine of preemption is rooted in the belief that waiting for the threats to fully materialize, particularly the nuclear ones, possesses an existential danger to the state. By integrating intelligence operations with military force, Israel seeks to compress decision timelines and maintain the initiative at every stage of the conflict. Iran, in contrast, has adopted a strategy of asymmetric endurance that leverages its geographical depth and missile arsenal and its regional influence to offset technological disadvantages. Rather than seeking direct parity with the U.S. and Israeli forces, Tehran focuses on the survival and attrition and the gradual erosion of its opponent's political will. This includes the missile saturation attacks, the use of drones, and the strategic threat to vital global energy routes. One of Iran's most significant strategic tools is its ability to influence the Straits of Hormuz, through which a substantial portion of the world's oil supply passes. By threatening or retracting access, Iran can impose global economic costs that extend far beyond the battlefield, effectively internationalizing the consequences of the war. This form of leverage transforms the conflict into not just military contest, but an economic pressure campaign. From the perspective of the United States and Israel, the ultimate objective is clear: to eliminate the Iranian nuclear threat and curtail Tehran's ability to protect power across the region. This includes not only military targets, but also the possibility of encouraging internal unrest that could lead to a change in governance. In their view, the failure to act decisively risks allowing a hostile state to acquire capabilities that could destabilize the global order. Iran, however, interprets these actions as attempts at a regime change and external domination, reinforcing its narrative of resistance and self-defense. For Tehran, the war is not simply about nuclear technology, but about preserving sovereignty and resisting external coercion. The perception ensures that even significant military losses do not necessarily translate into the strategic defeat, as long as the regime remains intact. From the balance of power in this conflict is therefore paradoxical, with each side holding advantages that are decisive in different contexts. The United States and Israel dominate in terms of technology, intelligence, and short-term offensive capability, enabling them to inflict rapid and extensive damage. Iran, however, possesses the capacity to absorb strikes and prolong the conflict, turning time itself into strategic assets. As the war continues in 2026, it increasingly reflects a broader systemic struggle over the future of the Middle East and the nature of global power and distribution. External actors, information warfare, and economic disruptions are expanding the conflict beyond its original scope, raising the concerns about wider escalation. What began as a dispute over nuclear capabilities has evolved into a multidimensional confrontation with far-reaching implications. In the final analysis of this war, it is unlikely to produce a clean or decisive victory for any side of the near term, as its underlying causes are deeply structural and resistant to quick resolution. Instead, it represents a clash between the competing visions in order, one seeking to maintain a Western-led system and the other starving to challenge it through the resilience and resistance. The outcome will depend on only a battlefield dynamics, but on which side can sustain its strategy and alliance's internal coercion over time. If you found this breakdown valuable, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep, unfiltered geopolitical analysis. Please drop your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think has a strategic advantage in the long term? Thanks for tuning in.